Hello, everybody. It is Anna Gatmon here. Hello, everybody. Another promotion, the final promotion day for my book Shift Calling, calling this series When the Shift Hits the Fan. Sorry. So today is the last day to get my book at the lowest price possible that Amazon allows. I want to tell you why I wrote the book Shift Calling, a practical guide to accelerate your spiritual growth. And then I want to go straight into our topic of today, which is how to shift from feeling anxious to engaged and from depleted to energized. And it connects to why I wrote this book, because we are living through really, really intense times, and they're going to get more intense. And it's ecological crisis, it's wars, it's political unrest, democracy. Can we keep our democracy going? There's so much going on, and there's mental there's a mental health crisis in the US for sure. There's just so much stress. And what we need to do is accelerate our spiritual growth so that we can rise to the intensity that's coming at us and meet this intensity with greater strength and open heart and fearness of heart and stability and a spiritual perspective of ourselves as spiritual beings of light and love on this earth here to create a Garden of Eden for our planet, our children, humanity, generations to come. So that's why I think this book is so timely. And then we each have to elevate humanity and our planet through the unique, particular personal shifts that we are going through in our life circumstances. And so it's a book that both invites you to look at the shifts that are calling you in your life, but also how your personal shifts relate to global shifts in the world. So you can check that out in Amazon and get your own copy. You can look at the reviews and see what other people are saying about the book. So I want to dive in straight to our topic, shifting from feeling anxious to engaged and from feeling depleted to energized. So there's a lot going on, and we're all on the news watching the recent crisis in the Middle East and the war in Ukraine and the floods in Libya and the earthquake in Morocco and the fires in Hawaii and the fires in in Canada, and on and on and on and on and on. And it just makes us anxious because either we live in those areas or we're watching it and it's affecting us. It's affecting us just like if you're a sibling in a family who's watching another kid being abused, a sibling, it's affecting you. So it's hard. We're living in this world on this planet together. The news are for everyone to watch, and we are experiencing the effects of the different crises. And so it's clear and obvious that we're going to feel depleted, energetically depleted, and getting more and more anxious. Is there a future? The younger generation is wondering, is there a future for us with everything that's going on? So here's what I believe that we need to do in order to go from feeling anxious to spacious, energized, engaged. And this is one of the things that I speak about in my book is the expansive principle. So beyond the fact that the universe is expanding, when we expand ourselves, and I'll give examples in a moment so you know what I mean, we get a larger view of a situation. So if you are looking at an argument with a friend or a spouse, sorry, a partner, and you're just seeing your perspective and you're blaming them. Well, what if you step out of the two of you and you get a larger perspective of the situation? Suddenly you're looking at yourself, the other person, maybe you even go to the other side and sit where the other person is sitting and arguing with you, and you look at it from there, and suddenly you have expanded your perspective of the situation, and you can gain more points of view and have a more compassionate understanding of the other person's position, more compassionate understanding of your own position. Because in an expanded situation, you get to be heard and seen and understood as well. And so the expansive principle is really essential for making peace in the world, for making peace with yourself, making peace with others, coming to a better understanding of what motivates people to say things that they're saying or to fight with you or to disagree with you. Also, when you practice the expansive principle, for example, you breathe more deeply. You're expanded your breath from shallow to deep. Just that, from shallow to deep, is an expansion of your breath. If you take 10 deep breaths, you calm your system in a way that if you're breathing really shallow like this, you are, even if there's nothing happening that's stressful, if I'll take 10 shallow breaths now, I'll create anxiety for myself. I'll be more anxious. Whereas if I take 3 deep breaths like this, and I just feel spacious. Spacious is the expansive principle at work. Now, the most important shift that we need to do is the shift in our perception of ourselves. You see, we see ourselves as human beings, a result of our circumstances, either our childhood circumstances or current, this current situation, the economic situation or the political situation. Yes, those things are happening, but we are more than a result of those. We are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings clothed in human form. So remembering that we are a spiritual being expands your perception of yourself. And so when you see that, you have a different perspective on any given situation. And so I want to read to you today um, one of the mystical messages. So I'm also the creator of the mystical messages, which you can access at either shiftcalling.com or expansivecommunity.com. Both URLs will take you there. Join the mystical moment messages and receive 2 messages every week, a different quality each time. You can see all the previous ones. So this week, the quality I picked was the quality of light. So I want to share with you what I mean by shifting your perception of yourself. So you go from feeling anxious, you shift to feeling expansive, grounded, engaged. So this is a message from the quality of light. It's a mystical moment because I engage with a quality and receive a message from it. Light, you are radiant. You glow from within. Whatever you do and whatever you touch leaves a trace of brilliance, a sparkle that uplifts the spirit. Never forget who you truly are. And then I invite you to become aware today of the light being that you are. Try to practice experiencing yourself today as a radiant being glowing from within. And I ask you, how would it change your attitude towards yourself if you saw yourself as a radiant being of light? How would it change your interactions with others if you saw yourself right now as a radiant being of light? How would it change the activities with which you're engaging, the projects you're doing, whatever you're doing now? How would it change your relationship to the world if you walked in the world today saying, I am a radiant being of light. I glow from within. And whatever I touch, whatever I do, I leave a trace of brilliance, a sparkle that uplifts the spirit of everyone that comes in contact with me. You see, this is who we each are. And when you walk in the world this way, you cannot feel anxious at the same time because you are remembering who you are at your essence, the substance from which you are created and clothed into material human flesh and blood. And so when you are in this shift of perception of yourself, you cannot be anxious. You cannot be depleted. Instead, you are nurtured. You are nourished. So there's an entire section in my book called Shifting Your Perception of Yourself, where I give different suggestions of how you can shift your perception of yourself to see yourself as a more expansive being than just a human being, a product of your circumstances and the culture that you grew up in and the current circumstances. There was something I was going to say and it came to me and it has disappeared again. If it comes back, I will share it. So just take a moment and see if, as you're listening to this, just want to see if there's comments or anything here. Thank you. Take a moment to remember that this is who you are. And I remembered what I wanted to say. You see, because we are spiritual beings, first and foremost, coming from divine consciousness, sacred divine consciousness, that is our source. That is what nourishes us. That is what creates us. When we are cut off from that source, or there's just a very small tube, a very small opening where that divine consciousness, divine sacred consciousness can come through, we are depleted because we are not getting enough of the energy that feeds us, that sustains us, that nourishes us. And so we walk in the world heavy because we barely have any vitality, spiritual vitality to nourish us all the time. That energy, the flow that creates world, that created us, needs to flow in full force with an open door. And when we just see ourselves as human beings and we're just anxious, the flow of that energy is very small and slow. And so as a result, our breath is shallow. We watch the news, we get anxious. We look at our lives, maybe at our children, at the future, the region in the world where we're living in, whatever crisis is going on, because there's things going on everywhere. And suddenly we're depleted and we're anxious. And so it is so important to shift our perception of ourselves as spiritual beings of light and love, of sacred divine consciousness, because we open ourselves up to the flow of that divine sacred consciousness. And suddenly, boom, you're energized. Suddenly, you can be engaged in life because you remember who you are and your purpose in life, and you feel engaged and you feel the vitality that's coming through because you've opened the channels for it. So, this is how you shift from being anxious and depleted to engaged and energized. Another part in my book, another section, is called Shifting Your Perception of the World. And that's equally important to do. You first have to shift your perception of yourself. You cannot expect a new outcome if you're still in the old mindset that was anxious. So you need to shift your perception of yourself. You need to bring vitality and oxygen into your body. And as you shift your perception of yourself, now you can shift your perspective of the world. And so that's another section in my book. We have grown up believing that we are separate and we are born into individuation. But we are also made, all of us, of the same substance. We are all made of light and love, of divine consciousness. Sorry, I'm going to have some water. Sorry about that. Okay, try this again. Everything is created of divine consciousness. So the trees are, the baby is, you and I are, the birds are, the products that we create, the services we offer, everything is created of this divine consciousness. The question is only, how potent is this divine consciousness in this physical form? In an oak tree, it feels very potent. In the ocean, it feels very potent. In a baby, in a different way, it feels sweet, but very, very potent. It's easy to connect to it. In ourselves, we kind of forget, but it's very, very potent. It can be when we remember that we are beings of light like this, and of love and of divine consciousness. And then it can be potent in the services that we offer and in the products that we create or the things that we consume when we really pour that divine sacred consciousness into everything we do and choose to consume things that are potent with this expression, with an aspect, with the qualities of this divine consciousness. And so when we start to see everything and everyone, if it's from the plant kingdom, human kingdom, mineral kingdom, fungi kingdom, from all the kingdoms, from all the realms, when we begin to see that we are all made of this sacred divine consciousness, then we shift our perspective on the world. Suddenly, yes, I am here and you are there, and we are physically separate. This is the experiment on planet Earth, to be born separate, but to imbue the separateness with as much possible, as much as possible, this divine sacred consciousness. So when we start looking at the world from this place, that we're all made of the same substance, suddenly no longer is there me and you, us and them, good and bad, evil, hatred. Instead, everything is our body. Everything is part of who we us, of who we are. The earth is holding us. It's our mother. It's our father. It is holding us, nourishing us, nurturing us, and allowing us to express ourselves creatively. And so when we start seeing the world from this place, then we don't destroy the planet as we're doing, because we see it as divine consciousness. We don't go to war with a neighboring country, because there too, there are people like us, with children, with elderly, with people with hopes, dreams, wanting to express their creative expression, do good in the world, enjoy the beauty of nature, and enjoy the material world and their own creative expression. So these two things, shifting our perception of ourselves, expanding using the expansive principle, which I talk about in my book, and then shifting our perspective on the world, when we shift those two, suddenly we're not alone, because someone else who looks different, but is also like me, looking to experience the world, express themselves creatively, enjoy, find joy, love, live in community. They might do it in a different way than I do. They have a different culture, and it can be foreign to me. Clearly, my nervous system is not used to everything. So things can feel foreign. It's normal. It's okay. But it doesn't mean I need to destroy something that's different from me. It just means that it's foreign to me, and I might need time to get used to it, to adapt my nervous system, my beliefs, my thoughts, and maybe I never will. And still, I let them live in peace. I let them live in peace. So when we feel this way about the world, we don't feel anxious anymore. We don't feel depleted, because when we see a teenager walking down the street, we see a being of light that has hopes, a young being of light that is full of dreams and hopes of what they're going to do in the world, what they're going to do with their lives, how they're going to find meaning and purpose in their life. So suddenly, I walk down the street, I see a teenager, and instead of judging them or being threatened by someone who walks down the street or whatever it is, instead I feel a kinship. And so I might walk down the street and feel kinship here and kinship there and kinship here and kinship there. And suddenly I don't feel anxious, because all I do is feel the hopes and dreams of everybody, the love in everybody, the desire in everyone to find meaning and purpose in their life, and to find ways to enjoy our material world, this amazing creation of planet Earth and of civilization. And so you see, by expanding, by using the expansive principle and expanding your perception of yourself, and then expanding your perspective of the world, you allow for the natural flow of divine sacred consciousness from which you are created. You allow it to flow more freely through you. And when you do that, you cannot feel anxious. You cannot feel depleted. You are replenished. And you feel engaged, because now you want to use that divine sacred consciousness to express yourself in the world and to go on for the next project. Okay, well, let's do this and let's do that. You can't be anxious at that time. And you don't feel depleted, because you just opened the flow from something very small to a much larger cylinder that allows this flow to come through you. So that's how you move from feeling anxious to engaged, and from depleted to energized. So I want to end, as I always do, with a practical tip of what you can do. And I've given many as examples, but I just want to, at the end, kind of focus it. And in my book, Shift Calling, every book and every chapter has a question at the end, inviting you into your own self-reflection. So there's a suggestion, an idea that I offer you, a different perspective or a different perception that I invite you to take on and see if it fits you and how it fits you. And then I have a question at the end. Ask yourself, how does this fit me? So this book is not like a weekend read. It's chapter by chapter, trying on the different suggestions and seeing what do I like? Where is there more resistance? Where is it easy to take on? Oh, I really love this. Take it on, practice it, and then see how you can move from feeling restless or anxious to just feeling more spacious, remembering the source from which we each come. So here's a summary of what you can do and how what you can take action. So the easiest thing, which is with you everywhere, is your breath. If you expand your lungs, again, the expansive principle, expand your lungs and breathe deeper, 3 breaths, but for sure 10, you will have shifted from anxious to relaxed. And take the time to experience, what does it feel like? So you can anchor this shift in your being, in your body. Another one is so another thing that you can do is, if you're in conflict with someone, try to expand your perspective, see it from their side. Try to understand the need underneath. You see, many times when we argue, we're in ping pong mode. Well, you did this, or you did this. Well, I just did this. I don't know. We just go back and forth. I do it. We all do it. Can you expand your perspective on the situation and see what is the underlying need that you have? Because if you stay on the argument level, you'll never solve it because the other person is never going to see it your way. But if you look underneath, what is the need that you have? So now you've expanded your perspective, your perception of the situation. You're looking at the underlying need, and need can be met in many, many ways, not just in one way. If you share your need, the other person's heart is more likely to open. And if not, then they're not the person to be with right now for whatever reason and forever how long. Try to understand, ask the person, what is the underlying need that you have here? I want to understand the underlying need. What is most important for you? Not the result outside, but what is the need? Why are you hurting? You've expanded your perspective on the situation. You've expanded your perception of that person. You've expanded your capabilities to listen, to hear, to understand. So it's the expansive principle is at work on all these levels. Try that out. You can't be anxious anymore because you're no longer fighting for your survival in the argument. You are curious about the different sides and what's going on and how can we resolve this? There's a need here and there's a need there. Wow. Well, there are three ways that we can answer this need. There's two ways we can answer that need. Suddenly there's solutions to, the war that's about to break out. So that's the second way to practice moving from anxious to engaged and from depleted to energized. And then the third thing, and I spoke about that in previous sessions here, live streams of when the shift hits the fan, and that is your material world. The material world is alive, and most likely objects in your house environment and in your work environment have special meaning to you. At least there are a few like that. And if you connect to those, suddenly you can sense the hidden door behind them. You open the door into the hidden world of an object that's dear to you, a chair in your environment that you especially like, a plant in the windowsill that you really like, or the way that the sun comes in, a place in nature that you love. Everything, the clothes that you wear, the food you eat, everything that you're doing throughout your day has special meaning for you. And if you open that door and you enter into this hidden world of the meaning behind all of the material world, suddenly you can constantly be nourished as you walk throughout your day. You can be nourished. I gave an example yesterday that when I drive in my car, I feel a burst of love for my car as it's either taking me food shopping to nourish myself and my family, or it's taking me to my next speaking event and it nourishes my calling and my life purpose. And it's going to help other people. So I feel a sense of service. So suddenly my car, as I'm driving down a highway that's not just beautiful and it's a long drive and maybe it's bumper to bumper, but suddenly I take a moment and I'm not feeling anxious anymore as I'm sitting in traffic. I'm feeling replenished because I've tapped into the hidden world of connection with my car and the gratitude that it is a transportation and transformation vehicle for me. Transportation and transformation for me and for the people that I'm going to meet at the next speaking event. So the material world is also something that you can nourish yourself because again, everything is consciousness, everything is divine sacred consciousness, and even the material world when it's very potent and it's palpable that sacred divine consciousness is present in the object. that you're holding, then that too can nourish you and replenish your energy. And when you imbue something that you love, when you imbue the objects in your surrounding with your love and care for them, then they begin to emanate that. And so then you live and you work in a space that's emanating this energy of love, of care, the memories of the event that you were at. And you walk through a room and it's there, sending you back what you put into it. So that's another way that you can keep yourself replenished rather than depleted and feel engaged in the world rather than anxious. So, this is it. The end of the launch week of my book, Shift Calling, a practical guide to accelerate your spiritual growth. Go read more about it, read the reviews, get your copy. If you want to join the expansive community, it is free. You just go to expansivecommunity.com or to shiftcalling.com. Both URLs will take you to the same place. And just click on the mystical moment messages. You sign up and you're inside the mystical moment, and you'll receive a post twice a week with a mystical moment each week from a different quality, inviting you to remember who you are at your essence. Inviting you to open that door and enter that hidden door of who you are, so you can shift your perception of the world. No, your perception of yourself. Sorry, and shift the perspective that you have on the world, and just grow spiritually and accelerate your spiritual growth so that you are a force for good in this world, because that's what we need now more than ever, to show up, each one of us, as pillars of light. So, blessings on you, onto you. I'll see you around. That's it for now. Blessings.